It's gonna start right away with some.
What's your name?
I am Ed, and you are
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Ed.
We're starting right off with launching. I don't know if things are going live. This is all new. Yes, I didn't realize I didn't know your name. I thought that would be fun to even just cover that. You know, Jack, I want to start off with this show by revealing one of the many Hong Sheng alien artifacts I have here. So I think these are pretty wild. They are supposed Hong Sheng. So I have 3 today for this special show. So here's the first one.
Ooh, nice.
Take a look at that.
That
So
looks like an alien.
It looks like an alien. We have a cordiform or heart-shaped head. And the other odd thing is I have a little folder entitled "Hold Your Head Up," you know, like the song. I think it's by Urgent. Hold your head up. Oh. So there is a motif of some of these beings holding their heads up. Sometimes it's like this on their chin, or maybe it's a finger on their chin. And I like to throw out the Hail Mary speculative theories. That's what I'm here for.
Throw it out.
With no shame. I have no shame whatsoever. And my theory is that it's the skulls of hybrid children whose perhaps their skulls are losing the pneumatic chambers that the tridactyls are said to have. And so that combined with a thin neck, and so perhaps the hybrids at first literally had trouble keeping their own heads up. I don't know. Our own human
Totally
babies have.
And you're saying that's for the small bodies? Well, who do you believe that is?
Yeah, that's great. I guess hybrids in general. I don't know. Early humans maybe. I don't know. But there is definitely a motif there, and all I can think of is, wow, the skulls are huge, and maybe some didn't even last. Maybe the first ones didn't last. But here we are. We're right in the middle of a show. This is great. Jack, thank you so much for coming on. This is great. I'm already throwing out
no problem. Happy
crazy
to be here.
theories. You're like, yeah, well, what do you figure about that? So let's just start with you, because you're so used to. I want to first of all, hats off to you, because what a great channel you have, and
thank you, man.
I have to ask, were you ever a DJ?
No, never a DJ.
You to me, you're like the Johnny Fever of UFOs right now.
Love it.
Johnny Fever from WKRP.
No, I don't know Johnny Fever, but I love the idea.
You are the DJ of disclosure.
I love it. I like the. What's the Howling Wolf? What's
Yeah.
Wolfman Jack.
And you put out so much content. How do you do that?
Well, I don't have a day job. I'm a novelist, and I've got an obsessive personality. So when I dig into something, man, I just dig into it. And I dug into UFOs in 2017 when those 3 Navy videos came out, and that's what got my attention. And I didn't quite buy it right away. I'd gone through my whole lifetime buying the disinformation, right? Brainwashed by this idea that there are no such thing as UFOs.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
2017, got me to investigate. And when I investigated, I really went whole hog. Once I saw there was some meat on those bones, I just spent 24/7 for years up until the present studying UFOs, and that led me quickly to the weirder aspects, the metaphysical aspects, and the weird stuff. Because that's where it all goes, in weird directions.
Was there a point of enlightenment? Was there a moment?
For the metaphysical.
Well, for the
metaphysical
UFOs
stuff?
first, even before that, because you said you just went all hog in on those videos, but was there a specific moment that you could put to a clicking?
Yeah, no, not whole hog in on the videos. That's what kind of got my attention. Combined also with another UFO video that came out around that time, the Beaver, Utah UFO. I don't know if you saw that.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It was
Deaver or Beaver?
a very small, fast object that was picked up by a drone. They were trying to get some some footage for a commercial or whatever, some B-roll, and yeah, they picked up a UFO, and I watched that thing on a loop like hundreds of times. Just the few frames, where you can see the small object, and it was clear to me that it wasn't fake, it wasn't CGI. I couldn't explain it. And that's coming from civilians. It's not coming from the government. You could always say, "Oh, government disinfo with the Navy videos or something." But so that really got my attention. You're getting it from the civilian sector. You're getting it from the government. It all looks very legit. You have people like Commander David Fravor coming out, et cetera, et cetera. So that began my study into ATIP and Lou Elizondo and OSAP. And it all kind of spiraled down into Skinwalker Ranch, where it all began. And I avoided Skinwalker Ranch for a long time. The rumors I heard about it, ghost and trippy weirdness and stuff. I like that can't be true, because I was an atheist. I didn't believe in any poltergeist that could that was clearly BS, right? And but that's where it all started, right? Our present UFO disclosure began at Skinwalker Ranch. So eventually I had to explore it, and I did it. Once I started investigating Skinwalker Ranch, I couldn't stop. To this day, I am fascinated by Skinwalker Ranch, and that got me into the metaphysical stuff and the weirder aspects of it all. And then I co-founded a ghost hunting team, and I started ghost hunting.
Nice.
That's I'm not content with being a researcher. I have to do stuff. And that's why I have the channel. I have to be involved. I can't just be a passive participant. And so I did ghost hunting, and at the time I was still an atheist, and I was thinking that ghosts, because I was at that point I had done a lot of research into the paranormal, and I was convinced that ghosts were real, but I was thinking maybe it was some sort of artifact of alien technology, right? If there's some sort of other dimensional aspect to all of this, and I was still thinking of aliens in a very even if they were other dimensional, they were still simply aliens. Now I have a different view on that. But so I did ghost hunting, and I encountered ghosts. If you do enough ghost hunting, you're going to encounter some ghosts. So I had ghost activity. I had shadow people that we had caught on camera.
Oh, Lord.
Whatever shadow beings are, and orbs and weird lights and all sorts of crazy weird sounds.
Wow, that's great.
And, so as well. So that got me in. So eventually I was like, this is not alien technology. There's something more going on here. So I went into Google, and I just Googled, "Do we have souls?" What's Google? What's Google gonna say? What's Google gonna say? You should give me what you got, Google. What's Mother Google's got to say about souls? Because I was still, I was an atheist, but then I was seeing ghosts. I was like, what the fuck? Excuse me, sorry. What the frick? And so what popped up on Google was near-death experiences. And so I began with the scientific evidence of near-death experiences, because if you know what near-death experiences are, right? Where people have died and left their bodies and been somewhere else.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, yeah, and some of them go through the tunnel, right? And they encounter beings and loved ones and talk to God or aliens, or they have all sorts of trippy, crazy experiences over there. Mm-hmm. And these are people who are brain dead. Their hearts have stopped, their brains are dead. And this phenomenon of near-death experiences has been scientifically studied for about 60 years, ever since people could be reliably resuscitated from heart attacks. And so there's a lot of evidence to corroborate the reality of these experiences, because many of these experiences can be corroborated. People will see things out of their body that they couldn't have seen otherwise, or they will learn information that's going to happen, that does happen. And they have there are 6 different points of corroboration that the scientists have used for near-death experiences to corroborate these genuine out-of-body events. So once I studied the science of it and satisfied myself that this was a legitimate phenomenon, I started exploring the experiencer accounts of people that were going to the other side. What are they seeing? Who are they interacting with? What are they learning? And to this date, I've probably absorbed thousands of near-death experiences, as well as probably a similar number of alien abductions. Because I think that's where the truth is where people are encountering the phenomenon and experiencing the phenomenon, and they're all connected. I think it was according to the Edgar Mitchell Foundation that 30% of alien abductees are near-death experiencers,
Huh.
which is a crazy statistic, right?
Hmm.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
It means something. I don't know what it means, but it means something.
It definitely means
Uh,
something.
so it's all connected, all the various phenomena. That's why I call it the greater phenomenon. Bigfoot, near-death experiences, spirituality, UFOs, aliens. They're all connected. And UFOs are a subset of the greater phenomenon, but it's not even a distinct subset because as we've just seen with near-death experiences, it's all baked into the greater phenomenon. And so now I have this holistic view of UFOs tied in with all this trippy weirdness, and I love it. And I've since then I've learned Reiki, and I've gone on to have a whole series of weird, crazy, trippy metaphysical experiences that are like genuine experiences, leading to a UFO experience that was a metaphysical experience, even though it was a UFO. Yeah, that's kind of an involved story, but yeah. So yeah, that's my basic backstory. How I got into all this, to the point of becoming an experiencer of a sort.
Yeah. So you mentioned being an atheist and no longer you're no longer subscribing to that. So what was that moment then?
Well, I mean, when I realized that I had a soul, that was weird. I mean, it was great. I was never so happy to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Imagining that there, was simply oblivion after everything, was
Mm-hmm.
never a comfortable way to live. I was always very,
Never a fan of that.
terrified. And the worst thing that can happen to anybody is oblivion, and it's going to happen to me, and it's going to happen to everybody. And this is a, pretty crappy situation, but it is the way it is, and I made my peace with it as well as I could, and but I was resigned to oblivion, and when I realized that I would go on, it was very nice. It was a very, 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 very pleasant, and I am happy to get the word out. I don't want to be like a born again Christian, annoying everybody with my newfound spirituality.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, I think that there's a lot of people in the boat that I was in that are afraid of oblivion and live their life with that hanging over them.
Hmm.
And I think it was nice to get the word out that that may not be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd rather have a positive outlook on things, whatever it is. Which that reminds me of speaking of positive versus negative within the UFO community. Of course, there's all these different divides and debates, and one of them is whether these are benign beings or malevolent beings, and maybe both, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, no, I think there's a wide range of ETs. As above, so below, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as we are varied in our moralities and our various
Mm-hmm.
approaches, so are they. And just as we have factions and factions within factions,
Mm-hmm.
so do they. So you can have benevolent gray type ETs, or grays or Nordics. They can be very goodly, and there's many goodly experiences that people have had with both of those races, especially the Nordics. They people, the human-looking aliens, whatever you want to call them, Pleiadians or Pleiadians. What did Billy Maher call them? Pelagians, Pleiadians, whatever you call them.
Pleiadians?
And
Pleiadians have a D in
well, there's Pleiadians, but
it?
Billy
Okay.
Meyer said that was wrong. They're not Pleiadians, they're Pleiadians or
Aha.
something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you know Billy Meyer and that whole story, and he's kind of a controversial figure.
I don't actually. I'm not
Yeah, yeah. Well,
terrible with
yeah, he's
names.
a well, he was one of the early contactees,
Okay.
along with like Adamski and those people. Back in
Yes.
the 50s and 60s, when people were having contacts with
Mm-hmm.
Venezuelans and, various races like George Adamski. I think that the beings he was encountering said they were from Venus, and Billy Meyer, the beings he was encountering were from Pleiadian or whatever, which
Okay.
is what he said was the real Pleiades.
I see.
At like a different vibrational frequency or something. Anyway,
Okay.
so whatever. I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, we were
Where was
talking
I
about,
going? What
yeah,
was I talking about?
the moral, the
Oh yeah, yeah,
moral
yeah. So
barometer these
people
days.
will have good experiences with human-looking ETs, but occasionally you will have negative experiences with human-looking ETs.
Hmm.
You get more negative experiences with the grays, but you also get plenty of positive experiences as well.
Okay.
And most people say they don't have much of a personality, if any. Occasionally, you'll get a personality, and you'll even get a sense of love or care coming from one,
Okay.
and even like a distinctive relationship that contactee can build with one of these entities.
Interesting.
But yeah, yeah, but typically grays are seen as emotionless, and that seems to be how they typically operate.
Hmm. Great.
But
So, and of course, we were talking about your specific metaphysical moments. So, what was the catalyst for this? What was the you
I think
say
that
you
I
say acknowledgement of a soul, but what prompted that?
well, okay, so I'd already seen ghosty stuff, right? And I was like, okay, I don't think this is alien technology. This is definitely leaning toward the paranormal.
Hmm.
And one of my Reiki buddies, or one of my ghost hunting buddies, was a Reiki master. And I had kind of rolled my, if you know what Reiki is,
Sure.
hands on healing.
Yeah, I mean, I like yourself are reinvestigating everything and reevaluating things. So something like Reiki, which I may have dismissed myself in the past, I now have to say, okay, let's re-examine that and see what's there, right?
Yeah, I mean that's where I was. I was when she first told me she was a Reiki master, I just okay, that's cute.
Mastery.
Here's a cookie. Right, all right. And but then after investigating all of this, I was like, because I would also investigate psi abilities, right, and
Hmm.
the abilities that people could do, and Reiki would come up from time to time in my
Hmm.
research, and there seemed to be some there, right, and I was like, okay, could there be, and because there's like scientific papers written about it. And I was like, okay, all right, well, Elizabeth, yeah, if you want to do some Reiki on me, go for it. So she did a Reiki session on me, lasted
Hmm.
about an hour, and I just fell asleep. But lying on a table, it was very relaxing. Got the meditation music going. But afterwards, I was filled with energy. I could
Ah,
feel this crazy, weird energy. I
wow.
mean, it was a great energy. It was a very wholesome energy, and my mind felt very clear. I felt very light and so energized. And
Right.
I was like, "This is really weird. This is not. This is a supernatural feeling that I am feeling. This is a spiritual force. This is the force. I am feeling the
Yeah,
force.
that's what it is, right? The force
I was
is
feeling the Reiki energy, chi,
chi,
ki,
ki, all of that good
whatever you want
stuff.
to call it,
Absolutely.
prana, vril, and I was feeling it. I was feeling that energy, and
So what do you think that
when I
is? What is the
what was
force?
that?
What is the energy? What is in Jack's world? What is the energy? What is force? Jack's
Uh,
world and Jack's words.
it is the energy that unites us all and binds the universe together. What does Yoda say? I mean, it's the force. I mean, it
Yeah,
is the
man.
force.
Yeah,
And
man.
so, when I moved, I encountered a Reiki professional, and I went to her for Reiki because I just wanted to feel that feeling again. And
Sure.
but she offered a course in how to in teaching it,
Oh, wow.
and so I said, well, shoot, if I could learn to wield the Force, if I could be a Jedi, that'd be
Yes.
pretty badass.
That's right. That's
That'd be
right.
pretty badass, right? So yeah, so I said, sign me up. So it was a year and a half course. It was a year and a half course, and I took it. It was a 3.5 hours every week, and I just loved it. And I think taking that class and being around those energies raised my vibrational level, and that sounds very woo woo, but I think that's what happened. And I think that because of that, I began to have a series of metaphysical experiences and culminating in I mean, they're still ongoing, but they're culminating in a UFO. but
Mm.
I had, a Kundalini awakening, if you've ever heard of that,
Mm-hmm.
which was a profound experience. And a lot of people use that term in kind of a broad sense. Any awakening modality, any enlightenment modality, they'll ascribe a term a Kundalini awakening. But what I experienced was the textbook Kundalini awakening, the Hindu textbook Kundalini awakening. And I'm not a Hindu. I haven't studied Hinduism. I had heard of Kundalini awakenings. My Reiki master had a series of Kundalini awakenings. She said 6 of them. And
Hmm.
so I was aware of this, and I thought, hey, I definitely want to have one someday. When I'm 80, meditating on a mountaintop somewhere with a long beard, longer than your beard, you know, you know, not with as good of a mustache, but a long beard. Maybe I'll have a Kundalini
There's
awakening. So
something to be said about solitude. I'll have to say that. Just interacting with the human race on a daily basis, there's something to be said about solitude for sure.
but yeah, so the Kundalini awakening happened. It was like being
All right,
hit
so
by
give us the Kundalini awakening for the uninitiated. I know it vaguely myself.
Well, the way it was for me was it was like being hit by lightning. It was totally spontaneous, but it wasn't, like an accidental trigger of the Kundalini energy. It was orchestrated for me, and yeah, because this was a granted experience. This was a gift from somebody. I don't know who, because I wasn't meditating. I wasn't doing anything. I was playing a video game, and then I quit playing the video game. And as soon as I quit playing the video game,
I guess I have to ask, what game are you playing?
yeah, well, actually, that's no. I'm glad you asked, because that's actually an important part of the story. I mean, that
I
sounds
wouldn't be
weird.
doing my part here if I didn't.
No, no, no. Well, it was Doom. It was like the one that came out in 2017 or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, but that's like an important part of the story. Okay, because at a certain point in that Doom game, you're fighting demons on Mars, and then you go to hell and you're fighting demons in hell.
Uh-huh.
And okay, so I was stoned. I was playing video game stoned. All right,
As one should be,
kick
right?
cats out of the bag. All right, and so I've killed all the bad guys in hell. But I am stoned and I can't figure out how to get out of hell. And I have accidentally gone back to the beginning of those levels, like 6 levels
Oh
earlier.
no.
And I was so stoned, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was roaming around, lost in hell for hours, hours. There was no bad guys. I'd killed everybody. Nobody was respawning because I'd cleared all the levels. And so here I am wandering around this desolate hellscape, this beautifully realized, they spend millions and millions of dollars on this game, really well realized
Yeah,
hellscape.
sure.
So I'm just wandering around this desolate hellscape for hours, just freaking out because I couldn't get out of hell. And after hours of being, stoned and lost in hell, I said, "Screw this! I'm getting up. I'm doing something else." So I get up. I turn off the game. I go to my study. I sit down. As soon as my spine hits the chair, the Kundalini awakening starts happening.
Huh.
And
What?
so I was literally 1 minute from being lost in hell. I was having an enlightenment modality. Uh,
Bizarre.
so there's no way that was an accident, right? That was clearly orchestrated by somebody. And as my friend told me when I told him about it, he said that was a confirming metaphor, and
Hmm.
I like that. I like that. That was a good way to say it. But yeah,
I
so
like
it
that
was.
too.
So yeah, the way the Kundalini awakening hit me was the pulses up my spine. That's how it goes, and then I started to have go into seizures. And I recognized what was happening because I had heard about Kundalini awakenings. I had heard of pulses up the spine. I didn't quite know what that would feel like, or the extent of the seizures. I had heard there was some shaking, but yeah,
Wow.
I was like all seizing up, and
Wow.
the pulses were going up my spine. And if I hadn't known what was happening, I would have thought I was stroking out or something. I would
Sure.
have had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Which would have been a crappy way to spend your Kundalini awakening.
Yes, it
And
would.
but then the good stuff started, and it was an amazing, mind blowing experience where I never quite left my body, but I was in the light for about 5 hours. That's how long the experience was. It was a 5 hour
That's great.
experience, and it was just incredible. I mean, it was the uh, most incredible thing that had ever happened to me. I could get into more of the Kundalini awakening, but it's kind of um, the Kundalini energy is a sexy energy. It's not erotic, but it is a sexy energy. And so I don't want to get too graphic,
Mm.
and not that there were any physical side effects, but it is a very powerful.
And
It's like being hit by lightning. It's amazing.
what are your thoughts on the Kundalini being in relation to serpent imagery and
Yeah,
metaphors?
no, that comes up a lot. Yeah, the serpent imagery as a force for good comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I've also done ayahuasca. I've been to
Mm.
10 ayahuasca ceremonies,
Wow.
and Mother Aya is often depicted as a giant anaconda.
Mm.
Another positive serpent imagery, right?
Mm-hmm.
In
Yes.
Christian mythology, that's has been demonized. The
Sure.
serpent.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of.
Coincidentally, the matriarchy has also been demonized too
That's
by
right.
the
That's right.
same people.
Well, that's the Chris Bledsoe story, right? Is the lady, the divine feminine,
Mm-hmm.
and is she Hathor? Well, Ryan Bledsoe, and you're familiar with the Chris Bledsoe story, right?
I know the name, but you'll have to probably again give it to me. Give it to
Okay.
everyone else, if not me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the Chris Bledsoe story, just an incredible story. I'm sure a lot of viewers will be familiar with. That he's this a man, if you hadn't figured that out, and he is a contactee. He's had some amazing UFO experiences. That had multiple witnesses, a lot of video that he's taken. There was because he can summon UFOs.
Mm.
And there was an episode of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that episode?
No, no, keep going.
Well, so he's summoning an episode. He's summoning a UFO, on camera, and the
Right.
investigators are there, and they've hooked these things up to his brain, so they're seeing what his brain is doing in real time as he is
Ah,
interacting with UFOs.
cool.
It is really cool because the communication centers of his brain light up, but
Sure.
not the giving communication, the receiving communication.
Oh, epic. That's
Yeah, yeah,
great.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so, but Chris is most famous for interacting with a being, even being, I don't know, a disciple, the prophet, whatever you want to call it, of an entity known as the Lady,
Mm.
who is this
Okay,
angel?
yes. Now I know who we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
okay, all
yes,
right,
he's
yeah,
great. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well,
Very, very interesting.
very interesting, right?
You know,
Well, so the lady
yeah,
is,
go ahead.
possibly Hathor, possibly an aspect of the divine feminine,
Yeah, I think it's all
whatever.
one. It's all one
Yeah,
being.
right, right. Well, Chris
It's like
Ryan,
yes, all of them.
right? Yeah, totally. Well, Ryan Bledsoe, his son, has talked about this and said that she represented herself as the divine feminine, but one aspect of that is the mother, which was, according to some, the one of the three in the original Holy Trinity in the
Yes.
Christian mythology,
Well,
talking about females being suppressed.
I mean,
And so it was the father, the mother, and the son.
and in
And
Hindi
the
mythology, the goddess is a three part goddess. So
well, okay, so
The Trinity's even there without any sort of patriarchy even involved in that regards.
okay, I want to hear about
And
that. But
and
just to
yeah.
finish
So
that thought,
anyway, go ahead.
just to finish that thought.
So Bledsoe is There's so many of these things. And,
So in the original, the earliest Christian churches,
we're talking
there
about
were
the
three
feminine.
altars,
Yeah.
and the one of those altars was for the mother. So backing up that idea that at some point in the church's evolution, they got rid of the mother,
Yes.
and
They turned her into the spirit, I suppose.
suppressing the divine feminine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They sure did. I even have another theory. If the Hindus have the three goddess, the triumvirate of goddesses, I even considered that Mary in the Bible. There's technically three Marys in the Bible, and in a
Mary
lot
Magdalene,
of these myths,
who's the Mary, and who's the other Mary?
there is a sister or cousin. So there's the mother of the Mary. There's the prostitute, and then there's a third character named Mary, who's some other peripheral.
That's right, because people say that Mary Magdalene was not the prostitute.
So, what if it's all the same person? Is what I'm suggesting as well. But wow, this is good stuff. You know what? I think I'd like to use this as a segment to segue. You were talking about positive serpent imagery, so I do have another Hong Chang here, and
okay, tell me what a Hong Chang is.
so it's just a early culture of China. And so they seem to be the ones they make a lot of effigies of what they call pig dragons. And the pig dragons look like fetus-like aliens. Okay? They also have just a multiple of other characters, the cordiform-shaped heads. They have tridactyl limbs, many of them. And here's one that I call either a naga or dragon-like. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, very cool. Look at that. That's badass.
So, now, of course, this could be just a replica that someone made.
I mean, that looks very alien. I mean, the way the eyes
it looks
are and
alien.
everything.
So that's my theory on, the Nagas and the dragons. They look something like that. And then these beings gave birth to the what we call the Greys or the Tridactyls or the Nazca mummies. And according to Hindi myth, there's various subterranean layers where they have different echelons of classes of beings, with the Nagas being the supposed top level beings.
Nice.
So,
Cool, man. Well, after my Kundalini awakening, I'm absolutely convinced that the Hindus were really onto something.
Oh yeah, and like you said, the Reiki, the Eastern religions got it right. I feel like the West got it wrong, and I think if you watch the fifth, what they call the fifth encounter, what are they called? Fifth. It's like the fifth kind. I think it is probably the fifth kind. Those are the two scholars. They connect the Elohim to the Anunnaki and alien beings. Have you followed those videos at all?
No, yes, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
So
I tend to kind of avoid the Elohim, but yeah.
But as you said, it's all connected. So I think the Elohim and Yahweh and all that sort of business, there's something. There was a different translation than there was to the East when we have Qis and Keys and Reikis and Buddhism and Taoism and all these wonderful, peaceful, philosophical religions, and then we have some Old Testament being, saying, smite your enemy and all this other stuff.
Yeah, well, I did have my own in my metaphysical experiences. My UFO event was a Jesus event, which sounds weird. How do you get UFOs and Jesus together? Well, my event got UFOs and Jesus
I got some
together.
theories for you.
Anyway, that's a whole digression. If you wanted to get into that event, but yeah.
No, you bring up the J word, and it's I believe he is just a. They say that Christianity is copying other religions. I don't think it's a copying. I think it might be a repetition of events. And so every 1,000 years or 500 years, some sort of superior entity is sending down some representative to tweak our behavior, perhaps, whether it's Buddha or Shiva or Jesus or some other crazy character, right?
Yeah, well, okay, so, really quickly, just to try to get it as quickly as possible. So I'm an atheist researching this stuff and also researching UFOs, UFO abductions, and sometimes in near-death experiences, people will encounter Jesus, of course, but sometimes Jesus is hanging out with aliens. And in near-death experiences, sometimes people will have Jesus events or something like that, religious events aboard UFOs, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I started kind of to wonder, would somebody invent that? That seems odd. It seems like if you're a diehard Christian, you're probably not going to see Jesus hanging out with aliens. If what you're seeing is somehow mimicking your own beliefs, if it's some sort of reflective thing. Is there a real Jesus? But I didn't want to study the Bible. That's just going to give you the dogma.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what can I study to see if there was a real Jesus? And I came across these two books by Dolores Cannon. If you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, she hypnotically regressed like thousands of alien abductees. And so we have a lot of our information about alien abductees from her.
I see.
But she also hypnotically regressed people to remember past lives. And she did this over many decades, or throughout the course of her career. And over her 40 years of doing this, or 50 years of doing this, however long she was doing that, she had 3 people that remembered Jesus. So one was his teacher in the Torah. He was in a Essene, if you know what the Essenes are. This nominally Jewish group that lived near Jerusalem in this town called Qumran, and they're the ones who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I see.
And 2 other people. Anyway, so I was reading these books about Jesus, supposedly from people that knew him in past lives. And so when the people narrating these books are these personas from the past lives, and they're just telling you what they're doing, what they're seeing, and how they're interacting. And you learn a lot about the Essenes, which is a really interesting group of people. And Jesus comes amongst them, and his culture becomes the Essenes. The way you see his beard and dress and everything, that's the Essene culture. A lot of his beliefs and even Christianity is influenced by the Essenes. But the Essenes were into some cool shit, man. They were into Atlantis. They thought they were founded by Atlantis. They were meditating with crystals. They had psi abilities, and in those books. So you also get UFOs that show up, aliens show up. So you get this cool, trippy vision of Jesus, right? And Jesus is like an ascended master. He's not the Messiah. He's not the Savior, but he is the great teacher, and he is like an ascended master, equivalent to like Buddha or somebody. Right. And he is passing along a lot of the same wisdom. He even talks about reincarnation and stuff, from these books. So there's this trippy, cool vision of Jesus. And I go to an ayahuasca retreat, and on the 3rd night, I'm kind of meditating on this vision of Jesus, and I have this profound event where I feel like connected to Jesus. And I say, okay, well, this is great. This is a powerful moment. I'm probably just tripping my balls off. If this is anything other than that, can you give me a sign? So a month later, as I'm driving down the road, perfectly sober at night, a UFO makes the shape of the cross in the sky.
Wow. I hate to add you know what happened to me, but I'm going to add what happened to me story because in jest, I was walking. It was probably early evening, 7. And again, I wasn't think I was going to tell this story. It was probably early evening, so I don't know, 6:30, 7 p.m. And in jest, like a big ham, I said, "Star people, give me a sign." I mean, could you get any cornier, right? And there in the distance, in the sky, flashed a blue, like Christmas star light in the sky that you would have thought was like CGI for some Christmas movie or something. And I was like, said to my girlfriend, "Did you see that?" And I still don't know if she even saw it because now she doesn't remember. So I had a potential witness there. So I hate to dismiss that story because, wow, same thing happened to me.
No, man, I think it happens. I think as you look for it, it'll meet you halfway sometimes.
I was telling the story. I was on a film set called Big Trouble. I don't know if you ever saw it. It came out 2001.
I've seen Big Trouble in Little China.
I was different movie. I was an actor stand-in, Stanley Tucci, and we were on set with the rest of the stand-ins talking, and I started telling the story about circa 89, 90, when I saw these dancing stars in the sky. They were like little pinpoints of light. I call them dancing because it was like they were playing with each other, the way they were just bouncing around. There was probably 3 of them. As I'm telling that story, one of the girls in the set, she was like, oh, there's some now. And she looks up, and sure enough, the same phenomena that I had seen like 10 years ago, as I'm telling the story about the phenomena, appears.
That's amazing. I love it. I
And
love
then,
it.
since I'm on a roll here, I have one other major story. If you've heard of the Hudson River Valley sighting.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, our group of friends may have been one of the first people to witness that. We were playing in Western Massachusetts, playing hide and go seek in the woods behind our house. And as we're hiding behind trees from each other, all of a sudden the forest was lit up with an overhead light. And there, gliding above us, was this triangular-like craft with underlights with just a low hum going by. Now, I have to admit, what we said afterwards, we didn't, first of all, if I had ran out of the woods, I would have gotten a completely different image in my head to share with you. Instead, I just have an idea of a light looking through a tree. But we just said as kids, wasn't that a weird plane? That's what we said at the time. And it wasn't until years later I saw the stealth fighter. So, was it some back-engineered technology or something at the time? I don't know, but it was definitely my Stranger Things moment in the 80s as a kid.
Well,
So.
I have my buddy Nico, who's been on my channel a few times, and he's a kind of a whistleblower, I guess. He's an investigator that's talked to some whistleblowers,
Okay.
and he's getting this information out. And he had a similar case where he saw a ship that at first he thought was a black ops vehicle, some sort of reverse engineered tech. And but it was like a triangle, I think. I think at first, after he did some research on it and talked to some of his people, he thought it was a TR-3B. But it just kind of came up right over him and kind of like hovered there or something. I don't think a secret government craft would have done that. That was like a deliberate, it had to be, in my mind, some sort of deliberate display by the phenomenon.
Yeah, maybe. Or it was, what a great way to take something for a test drive is to make people think it's a flying saucer or something, Because we were right between two major.
Man-made. He didn't think it was a flying saucer until years later. He was just like, it was so deliberate in how it was revealing itself to me. Why would a government? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But there are many UFO sightings where UFOs will do a deliberate display for somebody, like it did for you and I.
Yeah. It's a silly thing that they would even. But does that demonstrate the fact that they're playing into people's tropes and people's personal mythology?
Yeah, because it's weird that they will have this. It mimics. It'll mimic secret craft. James Lukaski was recently talking about that. Back in the ALSAP days, they were studying these craft, and at first they thought they were black ops vehicles because they looked like the triangles or whatever that they associated with the black ops, the secret programs. And but after studying them for long enough, they realized no, these are anomalous vehicles that are mimicking our craft. I don't know why it couldn't have been our craft mimicking their vehicles, but that was the conclusion they reached. Was that it was a reflective or a mimic element of the UFO phenomenon.
Interesting. Yeah, and I've been super interested in all of this stuff too, but I didn't really have any sort of a moment, honestly, until the Mexican display of the Nazca mummies is where I had my oh, wait a minute. It was the shape of their faces, and me flashing back to my anthropology class and remember asking about, why are these faces found in different places of the world, and basically I got the response, coincidence or what they call independent innovation. That's the explanation of why similar cultural traits appear in different parts of the world. They call it independent innovation, and it's essentially, the anthropological explanation for coincidence. So,
No, I
But
love it. I'm all over the Nazca mummies, and obviously you are too. Well, what do you think is going to be revealed on the 12th?
yeah, well, they keep talking about those large bodies. I mean, we've seen the hands, and if you do the math on the hands, their 9 foot stature sounds about accurate, right? The hands are, this big.
Big hands.
Yeah. So, and I wonder, they keep talking about multiple species. I just wonder if that's not entirely correct, and it's actually subspecies or some sort of sexual dimorphism.
That's some dimorphism.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got the 1.5 foot guys, and then you got 9 or 10
Well, not
foot
those
guys.
two. Yeah, those. Two. I'm saying that, but
I like my women big.
there were other smaller ones that they've called also subspecies, or excuse me, separate species
Okay.
that had this.
I mean that makes sense, or variants, or other
Yeah,
species.
I'm just a
Like
little concerned
like with
about
the
jumping
grays,
to.
you get various varieties of grays. So why not various varieties of tridactyls? If these are created beings, like hybrids
Right.
of some sort, why wouldn't they just have created? You got a basic template, and
Yeah.
just kind of have different ranges of it.
Yeah. I think so. And well, if you're following along, also, I do believe that they're related to those Nagas, and so I think not only are we going to see a sexual dimorphism or subspecies, but we may actually see a metamorphosis, which is I mentioned the pig dragons, right? So even
Yeah.
before the pig dragons, there's these other things they call them jade commas. They look like kind of like little halves of yin yangs. So they have the resemblance of an embryo. So you have these jade embryos. Then you have the jade pig dragons, which looks a little bit larger. And then actually, I'll probably use this for another segue here. And then we have another Hongsheng artifact today. And we
Ooh,
have
look at
this
that.
one here. So I think this being here is represented in the historic record. I think this being here represents the child, which is the Messiah being of the planet, I guess. They send us one every so often if you're looking at Horus or Ganesh or Jesus. If you look in the historic record, it seems as though there is evidence of these beings. I like to cite the cornucopia of all things. You know the cornucopia?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cornucopia. If you go back in time, you look at the statues and you go back, whatever it is, hundreds of years or decades, the cornucopia becomes more and more beast-like until eventually you go back far enough and there's a god hanging out with just a snake. So I had to research it further, and the cornucopia is the horn of Zeus providing the fruit of knowledge, which sounds like another story, right? The fruit of knowledge, the tree of knowledge, and all of that business from mythology. So I don't know. That's my theory, is that the head of Ganesh is actually a small being that looks like this. It's just they're hiding the image. So there you go.
Cool. I mean, I can see like the top of its head looks a lot like the Nazca mummies, you know?
Well, so we have
Kind of,
once
right?
again we have a cortiform like representation, and so does this represent the first stage? I'm trying to get them both on camera here.
Yeah, there you
Right?
go. Yeah, that's cool, man. I like that.
So yeah, that's my theory, is that you can see archaeological evidence of the metamorphosis of these beings throughout time. You can also see it in the letters, in the writing. I don't know if you caught I am the Alpha and the Omega. You know that phrase?
Yeah.
And we lend this huge spiritual value to it. What does that mean? I'm the beginning and the end. I suggest that it means I am the first letter and the last letter. I am the first number and I am the last number. Now, when you look at some of these letters in some languages, and even numbers in our own basic language, right? We have 1 and 0. Right? I am the Alpha, and I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the beginning and the end. And so the number 1 looks like a upright serpent, and the 0 looks like a curled serpent. Well, don't you know that Omega was also one time the last letter? So That's my other crazy theory, is that you can see evidence of the Naga, serpent beings, in the alphabet of various languages.
That's wild. That's a great theory. I love it.
Yeah. So, and supposedly they found also a metal block with the Nazca mummies. I don't know how true it is. That shows the runic letters, a serpent-like letter and an omega-like letter. So I don't know, what's coming out of there is still truthful or not as far as the artifacts. Because did you see the video you watched the video, of course, you did a thing on it. How much of that is true and how much is, the only thing I can go on is the forensic anthropologist for the Mexican Navy said the bodies were real, and there was a paleontologist from Canada who said the bodies are real. I'm like, these guys seem to know what they're talking about. I can't go much, more into it myself than that. It's like I have to take somebody's word for it. You have to take some expert's words for it at a time, right?
No, totally. Okay, so all right, how does that video make any sense? All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks so fake. It looks so bad.
It's
all right?
mad,
You got a guy
right?
wrestling with the mantis being. But okay, all right, but
Yeah.
so then I think about it, and I'm like, all right, so in order for that to be fake and get like zero, like get 50 views or whatever,
Yeah.
because they would have had to have created several different props of large bodies.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work going into creating these props. Then you've got this large pyramidal structure,
Yeah.
which again
Which is
is
like-
a lot of work. You've
Yeah.
got the weird handbag device.
Does that belong on the top of one of the pyramids in Egypt? Is that the peak for one of those things? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's got the crazy writing on there, right?
Yeah, it's got the crazy
so they would
writing.
have had to create a language. They would have had to create a prop. It doesn't make any sense for that to be real. It looks so fake and so bad. But at the same time, it doesn't make any sense for it to be fake.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was going to be fake, they would have promoted it. They would have put it out there. If they had been spent that much time and effort and money, because that would have required at least a little budget, and they would have had to, again, manufacture this whole language. In order for them to go through that much trouble to create this thing,
Yeah.
you would have promoted it. You would have put it out there. You would have done it as a disinformation piece to discredit the Nazca mummies.
Right.
Because when I first saw it, I thought, well, that's the Ministry of Culture. They've got some artifacts lying around. Maybe they've got some fabrications of bodies, or maybe they got some bodies.
Yeah.
And they just, put them together in this stupid video as a disinformation piece. But then they didn't promote it at all. They're not using it as they're not going out and saying, hey, look at this stupid cheesy video. This is all disinformation. They're not using it to beat that disinformation drum. So could that video have possibly been real? It doesn't make any sense for it to be real.
It does seem to be aspects of it that you're absolutely right. Like that would seem to corroborate with the various tales and what we hear about the Citadel and all that sort of stuff, right?
It does. It's so hokey looking. It's so stupid looking.
Yeah, the mantis is the worst, right?
The mantis is horrible. if they like killed a mantis or whatever, where's the body of the mantis? They've got a freshly killed mantis.
Yeah,
they're
that's
selling
right.
1,000-year-old mummies.
And those would stay preserved too, right? If you kill a giant insect, it would stay preserved for quite some time.
Right. It's got this huge, fresh exoskeleton of a mantis being. I mean, it's so stupid. It's so hokey. It doesn't make any sense. It's obviously fake, but it doesn't make any sense for it to be fake. So I just don't know.
It's a very confusing time. So one day at a time and one bit of information at a time, right? But yeah, not for you though. You just keep banging out those videos, 3 a day sometimes. Wow. This was a lot for me just to get you here.
2 a day is my standard now. I enjoy being part of the conversation and getting this information out there and talking about cool things to cool people like yourself. And every time I talk about it, I learn something new, like you were showing me those cool figurines.
Yeah, man, definitely look for that. There was a god called Glycon. Did you check out Glycon?
Glycon? No, who's Glycon?
Glycon was like this legit cult in ancient Rome that even Marcus Aurelius respected. And it was like some sort of talking snake being. And the statues have this almost tridactyl-like head on it. And it's like, oh, is that the Naga again? And of course, in Asia, all the kings, all the emperors claim descendancy from the dragons. And the myths are of man emerging from eggs and rocks and caves. The myth is universal. I even read one the other day. God, sometimes I'm just reading so much I can't even remember what it was. I was probably Southeast Asian. Somebody was born from like an emerald or something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool myth, right? You're born from. But what does that really mean though? That emerald stone? Does it mean man emerged? Was man emerged from clay? But is that just a euphemism for a metaphor for man emerging from genetically enhanced labs in a cave or something?
Right. Man was molded. He was
and
created.
throughout, I think you alluded to something like this. We've been taught to not believe these things. Of course, in anthropology, I was taught not to believe any alien stuff. And so everything was just coincidence, or, oh, that's not an alien face, that's a monkey, That was always a good one. So it is a strange time to be alive for me because I was skeptical about reptilians and Anunnaki and Christianity and the Bible, all that crap. And now I have to relook at everything once again, come up with a brand new stew of like, oh, what is going on here? And like you said, everything's related. I say the tridactyl beings represent everything from dragons to dwarves in our mythology.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's all there.
Yeah.
Their marine existence, their marine origins is there. So you have your Poseidon, your Oannes, your Dagon, your mermaids, your naiads, or whatever the heck the other ones are, dryads. It's all related. It's all
related, man. It really is. It's this whole big thing. And it's all interconnected with, everything from Bigfoot to spirituality.
You say Bigfoot. I mean, Bigfoot was like one of my first forays into the weird. As a kid, I would go find the Bigfoot books, and then you'd probably run into Nessie and UFOs and ghosts and occult, right? And it was Bigfoot's the gateway drug.
Well, hey, for me, Bigfoot was like one of the last things that I really looked at.
Really.
Because I would go down all these rabbit holes, right? And, at first I would kind of circle around the edges until I would see enough points of corroboration to go there. Like with alien abductions, I'm like, okay, there's UFOs, but alien abductions are stupid. I'm not going to study that. But then I would see enough points of corroboration. Well, okay, maybe there's alien abduction. So I would study that, and then I would obsessively study that. Mm-hmm. Then, I would eventually it came to Bigfoot, and I was like, Bigfoot's so stupid. There's not a lost primate out there that hasn't been discovered, and he's has a global presence. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid.
So how have you rectified this belief now?
But eventually I would like, okay, all right, but I'm seeing, 6 different police officer accounts where they're reporting a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
A police officer is not going to make that up. He would get so much crap from his buddies.
Yeah, we dismiss people's narratives all the time. And that's how I feel about the oral tradition of the people of the past. We've dismissed it as myth. We say myth as though it's a pejorative, right?
Well, okay, so I, eventually when I saw enough points of corroboration of Bigfoot, I explored Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot gets really interesting and gets really mystical in some places, alien in some places. There's the idea of the quantum Bigfoot or the paranormal Bigfoot. He seems to be able to phase in and out of reality. Mm-hmm. So that kind of explains why, he's not just some lost primate that people haven't discovered yet. He's something else. I don't know what he is. But
I sometimes wonder if
you've been Bigfoot a lot longer than I have.
Is Bigfoot the patriarchal character? Is Bigfoot the red-haired giants that perhaps the tridactyls first encountered? So Bigfoot's dad is tridactyl's mom. is there something like that going on there?
Well, it's interesting you say that because
are they the previous species? The previous. Even, is there a hierarchy of us, the tridactyls, and before that there was Sasquatch? I don't know. It's mad, of course, right?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so David Paulides, the missing 411 guy. Do you know who David Paulides is?
No.
Do you know the missing 411 phenomenon?
No.
Well, it's super creepy. Anyway,
I will look it up.
But he actually studied Bigfoot, and he got some DNA of a Bigfoot. From like a hair or something that was left, and he sent it to a crime lab because he's a former police officer. and they got the DNA tested from a legit crime lab. I'm going to forget the results of it. I want to say like half of it was human and half of it was other, but
Okay.
I'm not. So they could be distantly related to us in some way.
Yeah.
You know, mixed with alien DNA or
Yeah.
ancient ape DNA mixed with who knows? I don't know. Who knows what they are?
You know,
And I've seen other DNA results that have come to different conclusions. So, again, who knows?
there's the
But
myth of patricide, right?
what is the myth? The
The
myth? What is the
Zeus
myth of
killed
patricide?
Zeus kills his father, and so I don't know. Did we destroy the Bigfoots
Oh,
before? You know,
you think we came from
coincidentally,
Bigfoot?
what's that?
You think we came from Bigfoot?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe they were the original alpha gods on this planet, and then the Tridactyls rebelled against them, and then they had to regress and hide. I don't know. It's
Well, hey, actually, I
it's
kind
so
of like
funny.
that.
I'm like writing my own Star Wars novel here. My head
Hey,
is
no, no,
you're
no.
trying to put this
Okay,
shit together, and it's like I don't know.
Okay, yeah, let's just play with that idea for a minute. Okay, so
Yeah.
because I can make, that'd be kind of interesting, right? If there was a Bigfoot species, and then either they or some other beings said, okay, well, we're going to tweak this species. We're going to take some DNA from the species, and we're going to add our own little mix, our own little
Yeah.
cocktail, and create this human guy. And that could explain why David Paulides was finding half human DNA.
There was red-haired giants, and we killed the Titans. So who were the Titans, and who were the red-haired giants? It kind of leans towards those beings. I feel.
Well, the Giants, I'm 100% on. I mean, there were giants. There might still be giants. Red-haired giants. Some with 6 fingers or 2 layers of teeth.
But I wonder, was the six-fingered a misunderstanding of two sets of fingers?
Related to the tridactyls.
We're related to the tridactyls, especially if we got 9-foot tridactyl bodies coming out.
It's crazy, man. I hope that's what's coming out.
Oh, it's funny too. We talk about Bigfoot, and like some of the most skeptical people on some of this alien shit is the Bigfoot people. They are super skeptical. It's like I think they're annoyed that their thunder's getting stolen. So I'm hoping this will bring the Bigfoot crowd in once they reveal, a giant skull or something, right?
Right. Well, it's so weird that the UFO people won't go into Bigfoot. Bigfoot people won't go into UFOs. None of them will touch spirituality.
Yeah, not me. I'm all in for all of it.
Me too, man. It's all real. It's all connected.
It's all real. It's all connected. That should be our motto. I'm with you. I think that's a good note to leave on. It's all real. It's all connected.
I love it, man.
Jack, thanks for coming, man. That was awesome. I hope we can do it again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast, and let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely, and let's see what happens in the next few weeks in this world of ufology.
I think it's going to be.
I called you
man.
ufologist. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with the title xenoanthropologist.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I'm just making it up.
I like that. Yeah,
All right,
cool,
man. Thanks again. Live long and prosper. That was
live
awesome.
long and prosper, man.
All right. Talk to you later. Peace.